It is Bulletproof Monday, and I have a question for you. Have you ever had that inner knowing, that just that sense, either something should be a certain way and it was good, or just, ooh, avoid it, it's not good? Well, that inner knowing, that little still small voice is put there for a reason, and it's there to guide us, to help us go where we need to be and protect us from the places we don't need to be. My name is Susan Sly, and I am a strategist. I am a marketing guru, and I am also the author of 7 books. And on Bulletproof Monday, my objective is to help you become bulletproof in life and business. And let's face it, business is tough at times, life is tough at times. And so this Monday motivational session is really designed to help you in terms of becoming stronger and just feeling more confident and capable in life. So we're going to talk about 5 strategies around heeding that voice, and why it is so important to listen to it. And even if you're feeling like, oh my gosh, Susan, I don't always hear it, I'm going to help you with that today. And so we're going to have a great time. First, a couple of quick announcements. So number 1, my event, Only 4 Days, is coming up in April. It's April 25th through the 28th. It is going to be amazing. It's the first event of its kind, really combining digital marketing and mindset, but in a way where we're going to teach you, and then you're going to go do it, and you're going to get live coached on it. So it is an intimate event, and it is, I think, 40% sold out already. So this event, unlike going to an event, and I go to lots of events. In fact, I'm going to 3 digital marketing conferences in the month of February, and I love all of my fellow trainers. The great thing is, when you go to these events, you learn a lot, but you don't always apply it. And how many of you have ever gone to an event and you learned something and you got excited, but you didn't do anything with it? Just nod your head, right? So at this event, I designed it for the small business owner to come to. So whether you have a startup or you're in a small business and you're kind of wearing all these different hats, and you can learn how to build a website, and then you're going to go get to practice that, and you're going to learn from someone who worked at GoDaddy for 10 years. You're going to learn how to build sales pages, and then you'll go build them and get coached on it. You're going to learn email copy, optimization, video optimization. And we also have a VIP package, which I think there's only 4 spots left. And in the VIP package, you're going to get a photo session with my photographer, Tony Taft. Tony is a celebrity photographer. Believe me, he makes me look really good. He's incredible. And our video specialist, Stephen Hayes, you're going to get to come to a night out with me at the Sanctuary Resort. They are doing an event there, and they're also clients of ours. And Chef Bo McMillan, who's a celebrity chef, he was just cooking for all the celebrities at the Super Bowl. He cooked at Guy Fieri's birthday party the weekend before. He's a good friend of mine, Chef Bo, and you're going to get to come to the Sanctuary with me and hang out with Chef Bo. So how cool is that? The website is it's the number 4days.com, only4days.com. Or you can also check it out if you go via susansly.com or my digital marketing site, which is theagency8.com. So definitely check it out. I would love to see you there. The other quick announcement on iTunes, my podcast with Neil Patel dropped today. So Neil Patel is considered by Forbes magazine the #1 SEO strategist in the entire world. So Neil and I spent some time together and we're talking about, okay, how would you 7x your business if you needed to? What would you spend your money on? Where's the best place to spend money on traffic in 2019? So check it out on iTunes or thesusanslyproject.com. So with that, let's get right into the goods and talk about this inner voice. So I want to begin with, this concept that we all have an inner guiding voice. Right? We all have an inner guiding voice. And for some of you, it's very prevalent and it tells you exactly what you should be doing. For some of you, it isn't that prevalent. You might hear it sometimes you don't hear it. And for some of you, you just don't hear it. And it's funny because, I'll say to my husband, I'll say, oh, I know, I heard it. And he's like, I don't hear what you hear. And so he either thinks I'm absolutely correct or he thinks I'm crazy, but either way, we were all given this internal knowing. Let's talk about where it comes from. So it doesn't matter what you believe. You can call it spirit, your guardian angel, source. I'm going to call it God. So this inner voice is designed to help us and give us guidance. And I'll tell you a quick story. A few years ago, there was a flight that was taking off to Buffalo, New York, and I believe it was leaving from Newark, I want to say. And the flight's going, it's very late at night. I remember this story because I actually was in that same airport the night that flight went, but I took off earlier. And the flight took off and the plane was on autopilot. The pilot couldn't get it off autopilot. The plane got covered in ice and everyone crashed on that plane. And they were interviewing the people who didn't get on the plane. And there was one woman, and she said, I heard this voice. I was lining up to get on the plane, and the voice said as loud as can be, don't get on the plane. And she said, you might think I'm crazy, but I just knew I wasn't supposed to get on that plane, and she lived. And you hear stories and stories and stories. I knew people who in 9/11, they heard that same voice, don't go to work today. They called in sick. You hear about it all the time. And yet sometimes we think that stuff just happens to other people, but the reality is it happens for us as well. Now, the challenges with the voice is sometimes we suppress that voice. So instead of really heeding and paying attention to it, we stuff it down, and whatever is suppressed ends up being expressed in another way. So if you're not heeding your voice, maybe you're day drinking or smoking pot or gossiping or doing all sorts of things that don't allow you to hear that voice. And that voice is there to tell you when it's time to fire someone or when it's time for someone to exit your life. It's also there to tell you when someone should be in your life. It's there to tell you the best choices to make in life and in business. And I want to begin with a story, and then I'm going to get into these strategies. So when the 2013 Boston bombing happened, I was running the race that day. And so I have run Boston Marathon 2007. Then I had a really great race, but I did requalify, but then I got pregnant for my daughter, Emery. So there was no 2008 for me. I ran 2011, 2012, 2013. That was my fourth Boston. And there was something really odd that day. And I was out, if you don't know how the race works, I'll just tell you. So what happens is they bus you out to Hopkinton early in the morning. And in those days, you could take a gear bag and you would put it on a bus that corresponded with your race number, and you would pick up your gear at the other end at Copley Square or Copley Square, depending where you're from. And so you would, if it was really cold in the morning, you might have a jacket, you might have other stuff, your cell phone. And back in 2013, people weren't really running with their cell phones. They were still running with iPods. And so it comes close to the start of the race, and I put my cell phone and all my gear in the bag, and I put my iPod on. It was like one of those little mini ones. I think they're called shuffles. And I go to start the race, and as clear as can be, as if Hadass or Shelly Jean or Bruce or Laura was talking to me, it was, Susan, be vigilant. And it just over and over again, be vigilant, be vigilant. And I had charged my iPod, and sure enough, I was about 5 miles in. I was running at a great pace, and then my iPod died. I was like, this makes no sense. It's a brand new iPod, it's charged. And so the whole time the voice is going, be vigilant, be vigilant. And it was also telling me the pace I should run the race at. So, when you're doing a marathon, if you're trying to do a qualification time and you're not just jogging it, you've signed up for pain. It just depends on how much pain you think you can endure. And so I was really pushing the pace, and back in those days, I was still suffering with the symptoms of multiple sclerosis. I didn't know that it was really Lyme disease. That's for another show. My leg was going numb. I was not feeling comfortable, but the voice was like, be vigilant, be vigilant. So I ended up crossing the line at, I think, 3:34. And so I went to get my gear bag off the bus, and I go to pick up my phone. and I went to text Chris, and it was so fascinating to me because I said, "Where are you?" And he said, "I'm at the other end of Boylston," and I was about to say, "Let's meet at the finish," because we had our friend Dr. Rick was running the race. It was a very special day. There were a lot of families from the school where they had the massive shooting, Sandy Hook. And I wanted to be at the finish, but the voice said, "Go to your hotel, go now." And so I heeded the voice. I didn't try to suppress the voice. And so it was a very circuitous route for me to get back to my hotel. And my hotel was overlooking the finish. So I'm like zigging and zagging. The roads are closed off and I'm freezing cold. If you've ever done a marathon, I have one of those big silver blankets on. And I get into the lobby. And I put my hands up like this, like the fourth Boston. I have the medal. And as soon as I did that, the hotel started shaking and the first bomb went off. And this guy comes running in and he's like, "It's an IED, it's an IED." And we get shuffled into the elevator, and then the elevator takes us up. And in my hotel room, I can oversee the finish, and the second bomb goes off. If I hadn't have listened to the voice, I would have been at the finish line in the precise place at the exact mailbox where the bombs went off. And I might not be doing this today. And so the voice that is there for all of you, the same voice that was there for me that day, is always there if we're going to choose to listen to it. So on Sundays, I always make notes about Bulletproof Monday. And on Bulletproof Monday, sometimes I'm talking about tactics like email optimization, and sometimes I'm talking about mindset. And what I found is at this stage of the game, having had an online business since 95, being 46 years old, 5 kids, 3 companies, in the midst of a startup right now, so many things that are going on. I can't just teach you tactics without teaching you mindset, because if I don't teach the mindset, you're never going to apply the tactics. You can learn email optimization and how to monetize that. You can learn SEO, you can learn all of that stuff. But if you don't have the mindset to get your work into the world and put yourself out there, you're not going to do it. So today is mindset, and let's talk about the voice. There are 5 things, 5 notes that I took. So the first one is to ask the right questions. And what happens in life when we're feeling sorry for ourselves, we ask a lot of why questions as opposed to how questions. So asking a how question: how can I make an extra $100,000 this year? How can I grow my email list to 5,000 or 10,000 people? How can I build a system? This woman came to my agency for a scope of work project. She has a network marketing business, and she wants to automate all of her back-end coaching because she's going on a trip for an entire year with her family. So when someone signs up, she wants to automate the onboarding process. I'm like, "Oh, we can do that for you. We can build that for you. That's easy for us." And so she's asking these how questions. So the first thing with the voice is to ask a how question and just to allow it. And a great time to ask a how question, there's 2 amazing times. One is first thing in the morning and one is last thing at night. So as an NLP trained coach, one of the things we teach in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, is that internal voice is going to process on whatever you're focused on right before you go to bed. And that's why I always have said for years, don't watch violent television, don't play video games, don't do that stuff before you try and go to bed. That's not the last thing you want, because your brain and your soul is processing whatever you're focused on right before bed. So that's a great time to ask. If I'm Laura, how can I make $250,000 in my network marketing business this year? Or, if I'm Hadass, how can I make an extra $250,000 in my coaching business this year? And what's going to happen is the voice is going to provide you the answers. And often those answers will come first thing in the morning. What I like to do first thing in the morning is just sit there and meditate on these how questions. And that's, and then what I'll do is I'll take a notebook, just like the one I have here. I'll take my notebook and I'll just sit there in silence after I've, prayed and stuff. And I'll ask the question. And then whatever comes to me, I'll just start to write it down. So that's one way to do it. The second thing is, leading from the first one, is to take that time in stillness. How often in our day are we go, 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 and we're so busy, right? And are we busy or are we productive? Oftentimes we're just busy. So taking that time in stillness and just allowing yourself to be present, to hear whatever you need to hear. Your body is always sending you signals if you're not paying attention, right? Would you agree? So when you're not feeling good, it's an upset stomach, it's, something going on, you just feel tight in your back or whatever the case is, that's your body's way of saying you're not listening to the voice. And if you're not listening to the voice, your body's going to start acting up and acting up. And ultimately this voice is really and truly always right. It is always correct if you pay attention to what it's saying. So sitting in that stillness and just allowing whatever to surface. And that voice is going to tell you if it's something that makes sense in this stage of the game. So I'll give you an example. One of the things, I have a friend who made millions of dollars in network marketing. And what they used to do, and they still do to this day, they've made, actually, I want to say, maybe close to $30 million. So I'm not talking about a slacker here, but here's what they did. They would sit in silence and they'd close their eyes and just say, who am I supposed to connect with? And they did this twice a day. They would write down all the names that came to them, and who do you think they connected with? And inevitably what would happen? Oh my gosh, I'm so happy you reached out. Oh my gosh, I was thinking of you too, right? Because the voice, God, told them who they were supposed to talk to, right? That makes sense. So it's taking that time in stillness. The third one is about fasting and detoxifying. So when our body is toxic, our mind is toxic, our thoughts are toxic, and it's very tough in a toxic body to be able to heed the voice. And so, there are times when I'll go on 7-day juice fasts and talk about the voice. It becomes so clear. Every day I fast, usually until about noon. I'll have like a Bulletproof style coffee, and I just don't eat until about noon. And then I only eat for about 8 hours a day. It's working great for me. Like, weight is coming off. I was out with some girlfriends on Saturday night. They were like, dang, oh my gosh. But even my photographer, Tony, was like, wow, you look like you've lost weight. I have. But in that fasting, whether you're doing some intermittent fasting just until noon or you're doing full fast days, that's going to give you some tremendous clarity to really heed the voice. The fourth thing is about trusting the voice when you hear it. Okay, if a person's not supposed to be in your life anymore. If there's a person you need to let go of. If there's a person you need to connect with, or something you need to do to grow your business, or when it's time to sever ties from something. And that voice will tell you, but you have to trust it and take action. There was a long time ago, there was someone that, unfortunately, the voice was saying, this person shouldn't be in your life. This person shouldn't be in your life. Susan, what are you doing? And I let that person stay in my life. And it ended up, because I didn't heed that voice, it ended up being very, very, very toxic, and it could have been avoided. Another time, and, I, again, didn't heed the voice, and a whole bunch of things went sideways and backwards. You don't just give yourself MS and end up homeless in a 16-week period. That was because I wasn't listening to the voice. The voice was telling me back then, Susan, you're making bad decisions. Susan, this isn't working for you. Susan, things need to change. And I didn't listen. I was very young, very idealistic, and ended up losing everything. So the voice will always tell you, and it's really comes down to that trust. And the fifth thing is that this voice is more meaningful than any worldly voice. I bet if you're still watching this right now, you've been here since the beginning, your voice is like, this makes sense. this makes sense what she's saying. And that's not me. That's the voice saying, hey, listen, it does make sense. I'm trying to tell you these things. And this internal voice, which again, I say comes from God, it is much more powerful than your best friend telling you something or someone else telling you something. And I'll just finish with a story. So every night before my children go to bed, I say the same thing to them. And I've shared this on stages all over the world, but here's what I say. You have greatness inside you. You can be, do, and have anything you dream. And then I say to them, what are you? And their little voices, they go, I'm a winner. And then I say, what's your verse? And they say, he who is within me is greater than he who is in the world. And that's what I want them to understand. That voice, the voice of God that is within you, is greater than any voice that is out there in the world. And so if that voice is telling you, call that person, follow up with that person, apply yourself to technology, get your digital marketing going, whatever it's telling you, heed it. Because the last thing I'll say about the voice is the voice will always be propelling you to a positive destination, not taking you toward negativity. So even if there's a toxic person in your life, it's going to say something like, okay, it's time for you to move on from that relationship. Right? It's never going to say it's time for you to confront that person and, create a war where there doesn't need to be a war. It's always there to keep you safe, just like the Boston story that I shared. It's always there to propel you in that right direction. Because here's what I believe in my heart for all of you. You want success, you want to achieve, you want to grow, you want to do more, be more. And you can, and you will. However, if you keep on doing the same things you're doing, you're going to get the same result. So when is now the right time to really be trusting that voice? So with that, I do send the show notes out to my subscribers. I am a week behind, so last week's notes will come out this week. But if you go to susansly.com and you sign up for my weekly newsletter, I do not spam you. I send you these show notes and I send you all the bullet points. And if this show has been great, I would love for you to share it with anyone. That would be amazing. And I will be here next Monday at the exact same time. So with that, God bless. You're awesome. Go out there and rock your day, and I will see you next time.